Nottingham has been painted blue. Anthony Canocat has scored the goal. It's the goal. Allez le bleu! Allez le bleu!
Hello, Matt Elliott here.
Hi, Alan Smith here.
Hey guys, Ian Hume here.
Hi everybody, Jerry Taggart here.
Be sure to watch
Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV
For all the latest Leicester City news and information.
You can also subscribe on YouTube and various social media channels.
for the latest updates and news on Leicester City Football Club.
Come on, you foxes!
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website.
They have blown their rivals away. They have blown us all away in truth. Premier League champions 2016. The amazing Leicester City.
Happened in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
Leicester Till I Die TV. Your first choice for everything Leicester City.
tune in.
And join in now.
And now, here's your host.
Right, Chris.
All right then, how the devil are we all? Well, if you believe social media, if you believe the news, we're a club that's imploding in on itself. Are we? I put in the headline, are we a club that's tearing ourselves apart? Maybe that's a little bit over dramatic, but there's something not right in the camp. I mean, everybody says about Man United, something's not happening right there. And, it's been mentioned before when managers have gone, when Claudio went, was it player power? There's something just not clicking. Hopefully we're going to try and get to the bottom of what it is. Should the players have more loyalty? Wasn't going to do this show. I only just decided to do this last minute because we did the prediction show last night. And Terry's fault, blame Terry, started asking about this. I thought, well, let's do a show and let's see what people think. Welcome along. This is Leicester Till I Die TV. You can find us on YouTube at Leicester Till I Die TV, or if you're listening on Catch Up on your favourite podcast platform, it is obviously Spotify, Google, Apple iTunes, Podcast Addict, to name but few. In fact, this is where you can find us.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Subscribe, like, follow, and join in now.
So I'm going to bring Neil in just a second. One of us is team in, one of us is team out, and we'll get your chance to have a vote on what you think as we go through the show. But I want to start off just by reading. This was a post by, Craig, our fellow pundit here on Leicester Till I Die TV. He actually posted this, and I think it kind of sums up the whole situation. But he said, because I think somebody asked and questioned Top's loyalty with everything that's been going on, will he stay at the club? And Craig's replied, the biggest disappointment to Top won't be what's going on the pitch or at the training ground. It will be the behaviour of a small set of supporters who tarnish the name of the club and therefore the name of the family. The same fans who sing Vichai had a dream. If they had to stand in front of Vichai or Top and explain why they do what they do in the name of Leicester City, I hope they would be embarrassed. This is a club which used to be loved by fans of other clubs. We were everybody's second favourite club. We were, but it's no more. We are tarnishing the image of the club with yobbish behaviour and infighting on social media. We all love this club. There is room for different opinions, of course. I wish that sometimes when they act the way they do, that our fans will stop and say to themselves, what would Vichai think? Do that before acting, and hopefully we can pull this support back together behind the club. Is it getting toxic? Is it getting too much? Or is it just a blip? This is Football Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. 60 minutes of football fun and banter with Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV. Are you ready? Let's get ready to rumble.
Indeed, and I want to bring Neil in. Good evening, Neil, from a great Leicester channel, Beyond the 90. Welcome along. Thank you for joining us.
Anytime, Chris. It's just one of those times where I think the last time I was on, I want to say it was after we got knocked out of the Europa League, which is obviously, I don't know if I'm a bad omen, but I apologize. I know, but great to have you on again. Thanks for having me on, Chris. It's been great. Yeah, it's going to be a really good discussion because, my God, it's gone haywire in the last weekend, hasn't it?
It has, hasn't it? And like you said before, it's hard to judge it just on the social media, but that's how fans sort of vent their frustration these days. But there is a link in the description below on YouTube to Neil's Beyond the 90s Twitter. I can't get my words out. Twitter and YouTube. But just give them a shout out, Neil, where people can find you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Chris. So just right here, Beyond the 90 LCFC. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. So we try and do our bit again with social media. We're not as active as probably some other accounts, but we just try and put out good quality Leicester City content. So shout out to Brad as well. Thanks, Brad. He beat me in the last round, so it's another loss for me as well.
I was going to have Brad on, but I can't because I know he'd swear. So I can't put him through it again. We did the post-match together, and I can't, his health wouldn't stand another one of these shows. I've put this, but basically, I mean, it is kind of like this. There's a bit of fun. I'm very much Brendan in, but you want him out. So anybody that's watching, are you Team Chris or Team Neil? And I've just realised I can't spell team there. Let me just
got carried away the double E in my name.
I've got the double E in your name, I think, didn't I? It was just I got two E's in team. That was what it was. There we go. Brendan out. Straight away, end of season.
Well, the thing is, at the beginning of the season, I was deluded enough to think we could get fourth just because of the players we brought in, the signings we made, and the progress we can build on from next year and the squad that we've got. And for me, it's not just this match. I've been leaning kind of even towards it was a straw that broke the camel's back for me, that Nottingham Forest game. But it's not all down to Brendan. The players need to take responsibility massively for that as well. What I didn't like is that Brendan, for a few weeks now, has kind of been trying to backtrack and play. Yes, we have been kind of overachieving. But at the same time, you look at it going, it seems like everything's imploding and he's the main man there. From when we're speaking to Liverpool fans as well, it seems like similar things that he's done at Liverpool when he was there. And that's what's worrying. And see what's happening and speak to Liverpool fans like, we told you third season Rodgers. And I was like, he's learned from that, no problem. It's the blaming the players. And when that is, again, Chris, you've been watching Leicester and football a lot longer than I have. It's kind of like this is final straw now. We're looking at, okay, this is the beginning of the end because you're trying to just throw anything out there. So I'm not get him out of the club right now, but I'm close to it. Because if he could leave, that'd be great. But I'm not going to be like, fine, I'll drive him down to blah 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 myself.
Well, I appreciate what he's done. The 12 stage yet, have you not?
No. Well, Puel was a different one because that was bigger than football. And I need the owners just to take as much time as it was possible, even though the football was as similar to kind of how we're now just watching it going, yeah, we're terrible. But there was a Vichai thing, and that was much bigger than Leicester City in my case. I was like, whatever the family need to do, they've given us enough love over the years, whatever they need to do, however long it takes. I was thinking it was going to be the summer that was going to happen. So with this one, Brendan Rodgers, it's I think the club might just go, right, the next couple of weeks, decide your fate. And I'm surprised, to be honest, he's not been given the vote of confidence yet. The the beloved
dreaded vote of confidence.
The dreaded,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
I was almost thinking before the show, I hope they don't come out and say that, because if they come out and say that, that's just going to add fuel to the fire. But I mean, I'm on a Liverpool show after this at 9 o'clock, and it's going to be interesting to say what they've got to say about Brendan. But certain managers do have this period. I remember when we signed Ranieri, there was an Italian stat person, whoever it was, lady that was posting and said, Ranieri never stays anywhere more than 2 or 3 years. He always has a good start, and then it always trails off towards the second year, and it did. Quite right. And I just wonder, has Brendan taken us for as far as he can do?
And that's the thing. And it's as far as he can do is one thing, but obviously we didn't have any money in the summer. In the January window. I know we don't normally spend there, but it was kind of, in my opinion, it could be a factor. It could not be a factor. The fact that he's been chosen, he's not been given any money to spend, considering the likes of his particular. I think there was an article that Rob Tanner put out, or he did a podcast recently where he said the 3 signings that he made that overruled the staff were the training, the players that we signed, Bertrand, Vestergaard, and Jose Perez. Now, these 3 have not been great signings, and that's being kind. I mean, you look at the likes of Jose Perez, came in for 30 million, a lot of hype. You're thinking, okay, here's a player that's going to kick on to the next level now. 30 million, I think he's got 12 goals and 9 assists. And for a cam and it's not good enough, No. And for me, it's just looking at this a bit more perspective. I mean, this season, we were looking at getting out of the Europa League group. We're looking at going further than the 4th round. When you go into Derby, when you go into Forest, they're going to be up for it. They're going to see, we're going to knock Leicester City. We've not played in 8 years. They're coming to our ground. We're going to make it horrible. They're the FA Cup holders. We want to make sure that they're dead and buried.
Yes.
He made some tactical decisions, which, again, you look at the Liverpool game of last time and you go, right, with Liverpool and the way we set up, perfect. Fantastic. Well done, Brendan. But we also have to give him stick when he gets it wrong. The Brighton game, why did he go to three at the back and let them come onto it just after we scored a goal? Didn't really make sense. You're looking at this game, why did he not start Schmeichel? Why did he put Iheanacho? And I love Iheanacho, but he doesn't work on his own. Yes, he scored the goal, but that was all we created. So decision makings that Rodgers is doing now, for me, isn't working. And it's just, it's not been I was more than happy to stick through Brendan and let it ride out a period of time. Even if we're going to finish mid-table, I don't mind. But it's the intensity that we're playing. It's the way that we're playing. And yes, the players are to blame, but he is the main leader of that. You don't. It's like him. Yeah, it's like the CEO blaming his employees. It's like, well, yes, you hired them, and you are to blame for this position and for the company not doing well.
I was shocked when he came out and because he's never criticised the players openly before. Even when we had COVID gate and the partying and what have you, he dealt with it. We saw that Chowdhury and Maddison had been dropped, but nothing was ever said publicly. He did it privately, and it was almost to me when I saw that and heard that, I'm like, here we go. This is the start of a manager. That when you're fighting relegation, is we know what we've got to do. Yeah, look, you've got to do. Go and do it. And this is his team that his squad now. He's been there 3 years. He's had transfer windows. He's brought the players in that he wants, etc. He's got rid of one that he doesn't want to a point. So why, we should now. I'm worried. I tell you what I'm worried about, and I've said this many times. I'm starting to sound. And hi Devils United. But I'm just going to criticise Man United now. That was bad timing. But I am worried that I am becoming a Man United / Arsenal fan. Is that we have no God-given right to be where we were the last couple of seasons, and just because of that, we kind of always sounded like Arsenal. Well, we should be a Big Six club because we've always been the Big Six club, and are we as fans developing that as we finished 5th last season, so why aren't we this season?
I guess so, but also the ambitions of the owners wasn't that. The ambitions wasn't to be an okay Premier League club. It's to be the best we can be. We didn't put all that money into the training ground. We didn't put that money into the infrastructure. We didn't put all this money into developing some of this young talent that we've got from Leicester and from the rest of the world as well. So we are developing that, and the owners are going, this isn't good enough. Yes, we want to be, and we are going to have a down season. I'm more than happy to kind of finish 9th this season and everything to kind of, and then we rebuild again and we go to higher up the table. I don't think we were asking for a lot in terms of finishing in the top 2 of the Europa League. I don't think there was a lot of, I think from Leicester fans in general, there wasn't a lot of people going, we need to make top 4 this season. We need to do this. We need to do that. It's more, no, we just need to be competitive. And that's what we've not been. And we haven't been competitive. And remember the Great Escape season where we went down, but we were giving everything. I'm like, do you know what? We'll go back to the Championship, we'll rebuild, and we'll come back to the Prem, hopefully. But it's not bad to have them expectations, because the club has proven that they have done it again and again. Jamie Vardy is still firing. And it's just, you're looking at players like Yuri, like that midfield duo of Yuri Tillemans and Wilfred Ndidi last season was phenomenal. And this season, again, the Nottingham Forest game, just for one example, they came off a cliff. They fell off a cliff. Sionchu has just looked like a different player. And partly is down to the players to take individual responsibility and go, look, I'm not going to perform like this. I'm going to hold myself up. I get paid X amount of money, and I'm going to go and perform and give a good performance. They haven't, a lot of these players, especially in the defensive part, haven't worked. Now that's up to the manager to get the best out of them. If it isn't the case, then you have to drop and rotate them. But it's strange. Some of the decision making by Rodgers over the last few matches has been, for me, it hasn't made sense. And even on BBC Radio Leicester, I love Matt Piper. Even he's come out and gone, I don't understand why he did that either. I'm looking at the 3-2, and ironically, that's the 3-2 that we lost to Tottenham. That was supposed to be the most embarrassing point of the season. Now we've gone and done one worse, and everything's kind of caving in.
The only thing I can say is thank God for Arsenal, because they went out in round 3 as holders, and we managed to actually beat that. The comments are coming in. We're going to come
Man
to
United as well.
Exactly. We'll come to the comments in a minute. But I think a couple of points for me is, if it's just 1 or 2 players that are not quite, everybody has a bad day at the office, obviously.
Yeah, 100%.
If it's 1 or 2 players, you can kind of say, okay, we understand that. But I think it's because there's so many players that just didn't turn up the other night.
Mm-hmm.
When we played Watford in the previous round, we ended up on that pitch, on that game, at the end of that game, I think it was with 6 under-23s on.
Yeah.
They gave more heart and soul in that performance against a Premier League club than the 11 so-called first-teamers and top squad. And I can't include, in fact, I should make it 10, but I can't include Danny Ward in it. But they showed more heart than that team that went out against Forest and lost to a championship team. And I think that is what is missing. And I questioned this before the game. Do these foreign players and players that aren't Leicester born and bred understand and appreciate what a local derby means?
A lot of it, again, is something that's more common from what I've heard speaking to other fans as well. It's, you're looking at, like, so remember when Ben Chilwell played against Chelsea and he's all lovey-dovey, friendly-wendy with all of the players just before he signed for Chelsea the season before. There's these kind of things that you come out and you go, that's not a good idea. That's kind of more socially acceptable now. But you're looking at the likes, for example, just not to come back to Greg, but looking at likes of Dewsbury Hall, like, why wasn't he included? The interview he did for BBC Radio Leicester, Brendan knew he did it, and he is the man, and he is the man on form at the moment. He's arguably like one of the most informed players for Leicester City at the moment. He has not had a bad game, and he was going to try and epitomise that. And for me, it was another tactical decision where Brendan got it wrong. And that's okay to say, Brennan, you've got it wrong. And maybe they don't understand these foreign players, but everybody understands a rivalry in a derby. And I think regardless of where you are in the world, you go, these are our rivals. You go, right, I'm up for this. So I don't think that's an excuse. It's not like, I don't know, Yuri Tillemans was playing against Kevin De Bruyne where it's like, oh, we're going to be easy. No, it's the players' mentality dropped as soon as the first goal went in. And that's the problem with the players and the manager, who instills the mentality in the players that know. And we've seen it from Rodgers. Remember when we played them, we won 5-2 against Man City.
Yeah.
The heads didn't drop at 1-0. And that was, for me, is super, super important. The fact that the heads don't drop. Okay, no problem. We're still in the game, no problem. And then we're going to go again. That we could see the one immediate. They didn't even show. We just saw the ball in the back of the net because then Daniel Martin made a stupid back pass. Is that Brendan's fault? No, but the mentality does come from the top of the management structure, and it comes down to the players. What's disappointing now is that he's blaming everybody but himself. Instead of, if he took accountability, I would be okay, but it seems like he's on his last legs, and he knows he's on his last legs as well.
Yeah. I think going back to the Great Escape year, as you did, I mean, I have a 7-hour round trip to go to a match. And I had a season ticket that season, and it was like every match we went, we lost, But I couldn't fault the players because they were trying. We never got tanked at all. You got a performance out of them. And, I came away thinking, yeah, I've just spent a fortune on petrol, 7 hours of my life driving, and I've watched that. I've watched us lose. But you know what? The guys did it good. And the season before that, when we absolutely tanked the championship, you could guess what our team was going to be 4 or 5 weeks before, because it was that week in, week out. Now, what I don't get is Brendan comes out, and I'm going to use Chowdhury as an example here. Brendan comes out and says, what a great game he had as in defence. He's the man, and he's pointing behind the picture and all that. I haven't seen him since.
My profile picture on it's my banner on Twitter as well.
Yes, yeah. But we haven't seen him since. I mean, players can't. And I said, I mean, as you said, I mean, I went on the BBC iPlayer and did a thing for them yesterday. And as I said then, players don't know what they're doing, because they don't know who they're going to be playing with. And yes, I know with the defence it's been bad. We haven't been able to play the same team for so long. But we had injuries last season. I mean, God's sake, we're bringing Christian Fuchs out of retirement and in his back chair onto the pitch. But you put a ball through, there's going to be, your partner's going to be there. If it's different every week, it's a different formation every week. Put the ball through there, nobody's there. Because you're not playing with the guy that you thought was going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's what's annoying, I think, and why people are getting annoyed with Brendan is they just don't understand why he's making so many changes all the time. Pick a team, what you think is your best team, and stick to it.
And when things like, for example, Schmeichel was a brilliant example of that. He was actually our best player, I'd say, against Brighton. He made some incredible stops. Again, we know what we get with Kasper Schmeichel. A lot of people criticise him because of his, set piece delivery and things like that as well. But shot stopping wise, he's still one of the best in the Premier League. Yeah. I think when you're chopping and changing, it's different when you've got loads of injuries. But we had players coming back. Wilfred Ndidi has not been great the majority of the season. Let's be honest. He's been one of the best players in his position the last couple of years. He comes back from African Cup of Nations and goes straight back into the team. And you're going, okay, Kelechi Iheanacho is another one. You're going, well, you've had Patson Daka on the bench. And he's been doing really well from the bench. And his goal per minute record was really, really good. Or goal and assist per minute was, I think, one of the best, out of all squad. It might have been better than Daka and things like that as well. So you're looking at that and you're going, right, why did that make sense? Why did it make sense to play Danny Ward in this derby when you need leadership? And in that game, you gave the captain's armband to somebody that is probably going to leave, let's be honest, in the summer, and Yuri Tillemans. You're looking at it going, come on, there needs to be some kind of some solidity there. And there just didn't seem to be. And the thing is, we've seen this team change. So, for example, when we go back to Leeds last year, and we're watching that going, we've just played Europa League. We've just come in with this game. We had a back line of James Justin, Wesley Fofana, Christian Fuchs, Luke Thomas at left back, and Mark O'Brien at right back. And we won that game 4-1. Now, it's not to say we should be able to do this every single time. It's showing we have the mentality, we have the ability to play this kind of football, to change the team and to work. But it's not happened. And why hasn't it happened? Well, it's the manager, again, the manager instills the mentality. When you're winning, everything is fine. But when the chips are down, cool, you go, okay, this is what's wrong. This is what needs to happen. And the problem is, if you're blaming everybody but yourself, you end up looking like a bit of a clown, to be honest. And I think that's where he is at the moment, where It's like somebody that goes out and goes, "Oh, all my exes are terrible." It's like, well, the common denominator here is you, and this is what we can see. We can see here, and it's obvious. But just take accountability for your own actions. And I think that's where a lot of fans are kind of annoyed about as well. Instead of going, I made the wrong tactical substitutions again. Oh, it wasn't me. When we changed to a back three against Brighton, that was Brendan's decision and only Brendan's decision. When even James Justin was coming out and criticising and go, why did we do that? And instead of going, look, I made the mistake. And I'm more than happy for a manager to come out and go, look, I didn't get that right. No problem. But I'll learn from it next time. Yeah, I think we can forgive that fit, Chris, can't we?
Yeah. Because managers aren't going to always make the right decisions, And you put a player on, he's on 2 minutes, he scores. It's suddenly the best tactician going.
Exactly.
We haven't got that leadership out there. I mean, Casper is very vocal. He's the sort of leader you want, but in an outfield position. He can't influence the game as captain from the goal line. But who else is out there? I mean, I don't think Tielemans. Whether you could get away with sort of a Roy Keane sort of captain now, I don't know. Tielemans is more of a Beckham sort of captain, lead by example and what have you. But that's not what we need at the moment. We need a leader. And I'm just not sure, there's no Wes Morgan. I don't know who could be out there that can sort of basically grab the ball by the bollocks and say, right, come on, lads, let's get this going.
Let's go, yeah.
Yeah.
The leader before that would be Jamie Vardy, but he's not available.
Yes, quite right. I'm just going to go through some comments. We've got loads of comments coming in. Rob McFarlane, how the devil are you, sir? Brendan coming out and criticising the players is either shows he's losing the players or they are down in tools as in the past. We mentioned that. Good point. James, good evening, sir. How the devil are you? Evening, guys. Although it's clear to see the manager players are miles off it this season, I personally feel the coaches are not being held accountable. Well, we've just had a go at Brendan, but on that point, Colo Torre, was it Colo? I can never remember which one it is.
Colo, yeah.
Colo Torre. What the hell is he doing as defensive coach? And, you can blame, I can't blame Schmeichel because he's not had the same front four or five or three, whatever, in front of him virtually all season. And Vestergaard, he was a panic buy because Fofana got injured. I kind of get that. But yeah,
I don't get how you
what Colo Torre's doing. I just don't know.
I just don't understand as well how you can be 6'6" and not good in the air from both boxes. I just don't understand that because I thought finally we're bringing some height into the back, get your head on it. And I don't get how you're terrible at defending corners and attacking corners. If you're slow, but just stand there and jump. I don't understand how you're that tall, and I can understand if people can get past you, like if we get turned and stuff. Okay, that's still not acceptable, but still, I just don't understand kind of why it is.
That said this that said Vestergaard is 6'6", but when he jumps, he's 6'2". That kind of sums him up. I mean. I accept we didn't have the money. Like you say, you do wonder whether Top maybe doesn't want to give Brendan any more money. But you've got to think that we haven't. I mean, our owners are in the tourist business. That has been so badly hit by coronavirus and COVID and what have you. They maybe haven't got the money that they had. And do they buy now? Or do they kind of wait until the summer when we know more and prices aren't so silly? Brendan has said here, Brad says 4 or 5 names out in the summer. I'd be interested to see what we all can probably name 2 or 3. David, good evening, sir. Is Brendan in? I might have issues with his subs at times, but this season, too many injuries have clouded how good or bad we are under him. But I said the last season we had, Mendy. We had Fuchs, Morgan coming back, Devils United. Hi, Maisie, how the devil are you? No pun intended. He's seen Chris. Sorry there, mate. He's obviously gone for the good-looking one.
That's not helping us, is it? Bearing in mind they're the man who just had Ollie for so long.
Yeah. Well, that is very true. That is very true. Scott says, good evening. Hello, Chris and Neil. I hope you're both right. Well. For me, with Brendan's tactics and some of his comments after the game on Sunday, I think he will have a few games left to drop players and get a reaction. David, in this case, he didn't name names in his latest statement, but he's sure the players know who they are. Mark, how the devil are you? Welcome along. A lot
Hello,
of
Mark.
Leicester
He
work
runs. I don't know
tonight.
if you know about Mark. He runs It's 11, It's a Heaven, Jamie Vardy podcast. So shout out to Mark. Make sure.
Right.
Yes. So another fellow content creator. I think he's got a few players lined up. So shout out, Mark. Well done, Mark.
Yeah. Well done, Mark. Get to it's 11. It's Heaven. It's what's this podcast called?
It's Jamie. You know, it's 11. It's Heaven for Jamie Vardy. So he's named his podcast after the 11th goal and the line that was said after that. So
Get
free plug for you,
that
mate.
guy.
You can send me some money in the post.
Yes.
Send some to Chris
you
as
get
well.
10%.
Yeah.
Dorco, Brendan is a good man, probably too nice. Initial respect the players had for him is eventually morphed into contempt. A bit strong, that I think, but I get your point. As a minimum, any player that can't give us full commitment shouldn't be in the team. Steve Smart, if Brendan comes out saying his team have lost their hunger, then that's when you got to ask why. Terry, who started all this off last night, welcome along, Terry.
Evening, Terry.
Your fault, mate. Your fault. If and when we lose to Liverpool, West Ham, and Wolves, we could be down to 15th in position. Then we'll see how strong the so-called loyalty is. But other teams might lose. You know, you can't. You know, you look at the table, and it is a weird table. And I'll come on to that soon. You know, with the tables. I'll come back to that straight after this about the table. It's a weird season. Brendan seems to be relying on certain individuals to drag the team out. We've got KDH, who played well in midfield and played with passion. Totally agree. Like I say, we're just wondering why players aren't being picked. Paul says, good evening, Paul. I'm sticking with Brendan for the moment. Dorco, Leicester now only fearless of the manager. Leicester, then he said it again. So good he said it twice. David, Chris, I think it's a tough one. Take Fafana, young, aggressive, and takes ownership. Cag seems to have no common sense to act under pressure. He just seems to be a player that plays better when there's a certain person next to him. We have nobody to lead, which is what we touched on before. Get Taggart out of retirement. I think he could get a game, to be honest with you.
Back three. I think stick Tags in the middle. And do you know what? He'll still be quicker than Vestergaard.
Yeah, definitely. You can't question the quality of the players. It's the mentality that's the problem. And Scott says here, last one, at least there is one position we have a new head psychotherapist. Hopefully we can minimize injuries. We have had a lot of injuries, which we never
Physiotherapist.
had.
I think psychotherapist is something else, Chris. I think that's what we all need after physiotherapist.
Sorry, yeah, no, I see what, yeah.
We need a psychotherapist after that bloody performance on Sunday, don't we?
You. Well, come on here and talk. This is what these podcasts, mine, Neil's, and everybody's is like. It is a difficult table this season because nobody's played the same number of games. Burnley have got 4 games. There's about 20 games to be played, but we've played, not just for us, but for across the board that were cancelled. We've played 20 games and we sat in 10th with 26 points. Last season, after 20 games, we were 3rd with 39 points. And the season before that, I think we were 3rd again. And that, I think, is what is annoying because we haven't lost any big players last season.
We
brought players in, we didn't lose like a Tillamino, like a Maguire or a Chilwell or whatever. We didn't lose any sort of ones that we didn't want to go. But it's just, so it is the same team. And it is just, why has it all gone so wrong? I mean, I know Terry the other day was saying, the players don't show any desire for the club. They're not loyal. But then to them, it's a job. We've got to remember that. Tillemans, I don't think he's particularly down in tools because he's leaving. I think he's made it quite clear he wants to play Champions League football. And I think he's staying with us because he doesn't know, if he goes to Man United and they go get in the top 4, he's back in the same position. So I think he's waiting to see what his options are. But at the end of the day, why should players take it, apart from, say, KDH and Luke Thomas, local lads are coming through, why should they have any loyalty? Because it is just a job for them.
Yeah, that's the thing. But at the same time, we've seen it's so funny that how the narrative can spin. Yes, I can understand that, but you look at the Brentford game. That was a different Yuri Tillemans who was driving the players on, and I think a couple of weeks before he was saying that, look, I'll assess my options later. It seems like he's made up his mind, but at the end of the day, you still want to be putting in good performances to put yourself in the shop window. Yeah, in my opinion, even if I didn't want to play, I want to make sure I get a good reference from my employer for my new employer, and that kind of thing kind of unless they've just gone, right, I give up. Now, I've got a funny feeling they're going to turn up against Liverpool because they've got a point to prove and they've got a big team to come up against. And so it's not, I don't think it's cut and dry that, we're going to definitely lose that game, double figures. I felt like that after the game, but now the dust has settled a little bit and we can talk about this a little more logically in case of, I hate everything. Why are Leicester so terrible in life? I want to go to bed. Kind of, that's how I was feeling a lot after that. And it was like, why am I listening to BBC Radio Leicester again? It's like putting myself through that. It was unnecessary. But now the dust has settled, okay, we can, I'm not saying that, it's only going to get worse. What you got to remember as well, though, Chris, as well, we've lost more games than we've won, and somehow we're 10th. If you were to say that at the beginning of the season, if you would say, right, we're going to be halfway through the season and we're going to lose more games than we've won, you'd put us about 13th, 14th, I'd say.
Yeah.
You're looking at the likes of what's it called? Brighton just above us. They've won 12 games. So draw 12 games. And they're sitting above us. The other teams below us, you're looking at Aston Villa, they're going to come up now. Crystal Palace, you don't know what's happening. Brentford, okay. There's a few, we're not going to go down, no problem. But if we finish mid-table, I don't have a problem with it. But it's the way that we're going about it. And when you mentioned before in terms of, I was going to the games and when we were losing every single game, but do you remember the crowd and the atmosphere? We were behind, there were a few murmurings of, what is Pearson doing? But the majority of the majority of the fans stayed behind and clapped the players off every single home game. And I remember that and thinking, right, this is my Leicester City. This is what I enjoy. And that was really important to me. The fact that even if we were losing, and I remember, we lose again. We've lost again. If we just nick something, it was frustrating, but I was behind the team. Now it's kind of the opposite problem where the team are not performing and we're doing even better. But expectations can change. And the owner's expectation was for the championship to get into Champions League in 5 years. They achieved that, but they don't want to, that's it now. They made that clear when Vichai passed away. They made it clear that they were here for the long term to make this, and they wouldn't be investing in a 42, expanding the stadium, which costs a lot of money, a training ground, which costs a lot of money. They wouldn't be doing this for us to finish mid-table. No, we want to push as high as we can. And with that, it means we'll have to turn around, we'll have to change managers and do this kind of stuff. And that's just part of business, and that's part of football. You've got to keep changing, adapting your strategies to compete at the highest level. And that's kind of part of it as well. The era of, you're looking at the likes of Arsene Wenger, and they're done.
Definitely.
Arsene Wenger, and they're done. Yeah. We have to chop and change. Players have to come and go. And it's part of the life cycle. We will remain loyal as fans, even though at the weekend, bloody hell, it was hard. So we just, again, we can't expect, but we will be there and we'll be back in our team. It's hard, but at the same time, you looked at the Liverpool result last time we played at home. Nobody was expecting, if we get a draw, that would have been brilliant. Somehow we got a win. So it shows you the mentality is there in the players. But it's the manager's job to get it out of him. So that's the reason why
the book stops with him, and that's why managers go and players don't. And I have said, I thought we were going to get back to a bit of normality this season because we've had two really, bad seasons when COVID has hit us and disrupted everything. And I thought, this season we'll get back to normal. It is anything but a normal season. Trying to do predictions is impossible, because teams are pulling results out the hat and
COVID.
It is a bad season to kind of judge a manager and the team on, but like you say, it's down to the performances, and that's, I think, the thing that is effect, to play half a season. And Liverpool, I mean, I say this, before Man United had Ferguson, they were nothing special. They were the equivalent of probably like a Chelsea or something today. They won the odd cup every now and again, but they never, weren't winning the league. Liverpool were the dominant force. Fergie came in, completely changed it. Total respect to what he did. And Liverpool have had to wait 30 years to get back and win the Premier League again. They had that season when they won everything going, the World Club Championship. Next season, they won Sweet FA. And it's only been like half a season. So I think we need to, in a way, take a chill pill. My worry is if we do replace him, and who do we replace him with? That's the big question. And please do not say Graham Potter to me, anybody. But, it's manager will come in now. and he'll go, well, I don't fancy him. He doesn't play to my style. So we basically, you might get an initial bounce, but then you've got these players are players that I would choose. It's not my team. Come January, we clear 4 or 5 out. We get 5 or 6 in. We're back to square one, starting again. And I kind of think I've written this season off. To be honest with you, I really have.
In terms of the Premier League, I think majority of fans, kind of see it the same way. But we expect it to do well in the cups, which I don't think is too much to ask for. And without sounding too negative, I genuinely see us going out. Don't know if it's against Randers. I don't see us winning the Conference League as well.
No, you would hope we would go further. And I think, again, that's the other problem with this season is there's been so many false dawns. We beat Man United. This is going to be it. This is going to be the stepping stone. It didn't happen. We beat, we got beat by Liverpool in the cup. They came and we then beat them 1-0. Great performance. Backs against the walls. We didn't move on from that. And that is because he's changing it so often. As we've said earlier. Now we've gone past January. I think he's here till the end of the season at the earliest. But do you think with hiya Doug, how you doing, mate? He's looking forward to tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. He says, "I bet you are."
Yes, I'm doing a preview with Doug at 9 o'clock on his channel. Then we're doing one on mine an hour before. So shameless plug for the both of us. Look, should be a good one, Doug.
I'm doing a couple with him tomorrow. He's going to be a busy lad tomorrow. He's going to be a busy lad tomorrow. But don't be too cocky, young Douglas. We beat you last time, and we could do the double over you.
I messaged Doug not very confidently. I said anything can happen with Leicester City, and then we went and beat them. And then he came with the comment saying, "Fair enough." I like Doug because at least he's quite objective about it. This is
it, and this is why I try and have to sort of kick myself to stop me becoming one of those like we should be fifth fans, because we have been. But you said there won't be another Ferguson anymore. There won't be another Wenger anymore because clubs don't do that. The Italian owners, we know how quickly they go through managers. Look at Watford. But we saw with Alex Ferguson, and I say greatest respect to him as a manager, he rebuilt that team. He had about 3 or 4 teams in the time he was there. And maybe what Brendan was saying is, hang on, this team's done very well and it's got me here, but now we do need to rebuild and we do need to let a couple of players go and come in. And so maybe we should give him time to do that.
I guess so. But at the same time, what signs he's shown that, okay, even though these things aren't working, we're going to push in the same direction. Now, the fact that he's coming out in February saying we need a rebuild says a couple of things to me. One, he says, basically, why haven't you backed me, owners? I think that's a big thing he's saying. And 2, he goes, it doesn't matter this season. It doesn't matter. We're going to write it off, no problem. But that mentality is then seeped into the players, I think. And they go, oh, well, we need a rebuild anyway. Oh, what's the point of me being here? And that's the mental. That's something that you say in the summer when you say players are going to leave. He didn't say that about Harry Maguire, bearing in mind. He said no, even when there was a massive links, he never said, he goes, as our player, we're going to stay until now he's our player. He's saying that now, but he's not said that in the past. And it's about being consistent with it, Chris. And that's what I'm lacking as well. The Harry Maguire thing rumbled on for such a long time, for a year. He's going to come. They're going to put the bid in. They're going to put a bid in. And then Brendan Rodgers handled that very, very well. Now, when a player isn't leaving and he is here for the remainder of the season because the transfer window's not open, now he's talking about a rebuild. So it seems like the excuse is he's not being consistent all the way around you. Exactly. It was £100,000 a week. If that's a lot of money, then okay, then the wages have to change. Do you see what I mean? You can't just. Do you see what I mean? It's easy to have your cake and eat it.
Indeed, we can't change it on our own because if we say we're not going to pay you that, like Arsene Wenger, he had that policy, didn't he? I'm not, breaking our wage structure. But then all the big players went elsewhere. Maybe he's done that because. Just to give them a kick up the backside, and warn them that this might be happening. But I think I just think we clubs are pulling the triggers so much. If you have a look at how many clubs didn't buy anybody in this January transfer window,
and top clubs as well.
Yes, if you get past the oil-rich owned clubs and Newcastle, but that's like a country, an oil country, technically the same. You go past those, and okay, Villa had the billion from their sale of Grealish. A lot of clubs just didn't buy anybody, and Leeds were happy that they didn't just let anybody go. I think we kind of maybe fell into that trap a little bit, but there isn't the money about at the moment. And I think players, I think fans would understand that. We'd have to say, yes, they're in the tourism business. Totally get they're not spending money. But like we come down to every time, we keep coming back to passion, and from the players and from Rodgers, you need a clear vision. This is what I'm going with. This is, when we were changing our team every week under Pearson, we beat Man United 5-3. Then we went on and struggled for the rest of the season. Yeah. But he was literally changing. Somebody would have a good game and then you wouldn't see him again, a bit like Chowdhury.
It was Mark Albrighton, wasn't it?
And Mark Albrighton, yeah, he'd upset Pearson and he didn't pick him, but then
not hard.
He kind of had to. No, he did get upset at the slightest little thing. But so that's what I think. What we need from the manager is a clear vision and say, "This is what I'm going on. This is my favourite lineup." Yes, injuries will maybe throw that in or out a bit, but don't put somebody like Chowdhury in defence. Absolutely praise him to high skill and then never play him in that again for the next few games. And for the players, put the effort in. I think that's what we're asking. But I did ask you before you came on, are you Rodgers in or out? And you said out. You're not backing him. So I've gone back to you. The question says there, who would we replace him with?
So this is the thing. It's an easy. I know what you mean. Into who would you replace him with? For me, it's about looking and going. I don't. In the same way, this is how I look at it. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but either way, our recruitment is very good in terms of players. When we sold Harry Maguire, we're like, who are we going to replace him with? We've got an idea that their club's changing. They know that certain players are going to leave, and they're scouting for them. And it should be the same with the manager, because I don't think we will hire somebody from England. We won't take somebody from another Premier League club. We will get somebody and we'll go, who? Just like we did with Ranieri. Same thing. We'll just go, okay, we're going to get him. The club will be thinking of this down the line. They knew they weren't going to get. It took them until Pearson and the whole thing, the shebang there that happened. Then they got in Ranieri. So a lot of us in that time were like, we're in freefall. We're going back to Championship. Blah blah blah. The club always has a plan. I don't think they would have seen what's happening and go, right, okay, now we're going to look for a manager. I think this has been a constant thing. You're looking at the Claude Puel thing that happened out of nowhere. I think nobody expected Claude Puel to go, even though he did, even though a lot of us think, thank God. But we were going to wait to the end of the season then to change. The club always has a plan in place. They're very savvy business people, and we give them a lot of respect for that. They do know what they're doing. So it's kind of a cop-out answer. I don't have an answer, but I trust the club to put us in the right direction. And all it is a couple of jigsaw pieces that need moving, because the rest of it is great. You look at Man United, from the top to the bottom, they're pretty corrupt and they're pretty messed up. Again, Man United fans will be able to tell you that, even objective ones. They don't like the owners. The owners and the players don't get on. The management isn't really there because he's not going to be a manager for that long. We don't know who's going to be the manager. And the play, it's just everything's a mess. We've got a board that we could trust. We've got players that can turn up and can play. The management for me is the middle bottleneck at the moment. And that's what's not letting us go all the way through. And I think what's frustrating as well for me, Top will not be happy with the comments that Brendan Rodgers is making. I know that I don't know that for a fact, but I can imagine. I know how we know how Top is, and his dad is very similar in his mentality. They're not except to go, no, hang on, why are we talking about a rebuild yet? We'll talk about a rebuild in the summer when we come into the summer. Why are you going out in the media and saying that? Because I imagine Top is not happy, and Susan Whelan is not happy with Brendan Rodgers, just as they're not happy with the whole party situation at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they're annoyed on both ends. Again, it puts we think we're under pressure. The owners are right under pressure, and the CEO and Susan Whelan, I trust in their judgment to do the right thing, and that's kind of where I'm going with it. I trust them to do the right thing.
I do, and I mean, we looked at Prell and we could have sort of gone, well, hang on, what's he ever done? And, Southampton fans were dissing him and what have you, but Ranieri was the same. And look what happened there. And I know he followed Pearson and he wouldn't have won it, et cetera, et cetera. But, you don't know until you get a manager in how they're going to do. I mean, I do want to hear people's ideas of who they think should replace him. Very much Neil did a very good job there of not actually naming anybody, even though I asked him.
It's the job of a podcast. You say nothing for 45 minutes. That's the job. And everybody just leaves confused.
I don't know. I get ready to write down. I'm thinking he's not going to name a name here,
Yeah.
But JJ
you see where I'm going for it, would be.
I do, yeah. He says Nuno. Keith Daly says Hasenhuth from Southampton. Maybe. I mean, he's done well with what he's got, so maybe he does need a bigger chance. At least we're not naming, everybody said, Ancelotti. Every time we had a vacancy, Ancelotti.
It will be somebody we won't hear of. We've never heard of before, and he's done well in Portugal or something like that. Yeah. And he'll come in like Fofana kind of signing, but for a manager. Like,
I think, like you say, once we got rid of Prell, we knew we had Brendan in the bag. That's how, Man United, they've got rid of Ollie, and they're one of the biggest clubs in the world, but they haven't got a manager in mind, and
they're just improvising it as they go along.
Yes, yeah.
It's like the Ronaldo signing. Okay, sure, let's put him in the team. Why not?
Yes, yeah, exactly. I think that was a case of we need to stop him going to City. JJ says, what's your thoughts on Justin Ward and Chowdhury out partying? I believe, I don't know if you've heard this or not, Neil, but I think it was Olwyn at Radio Leicester came out and said it was an old picture.
But he's the only person that said it. The rest of the media haven't confirmed that. So the truth is, we don't know. So what we can say is it's incredibly bad timing. If this was the case. Now, James Justin's been in recovery for a long time, so it doesn't make sense. Danny Ward, truth is, we don't know. People like to assume, and especially with what happened, it seems like everything's falling down. But there's not been any credible source apart from Owen, and I'm not saying that Owen's not a credible source, but there's nobody else that's come out and confirmed that. Normally, when we're linked to certain players, you come up with multiple sources that are linking us. We've only had Owen, not BBC Radio Leicester. And do you see what I mean? There's a slight difference in that. It's just been Owen that's come out and said that. And I have no problem with Owen or whatever, but we just talk about one source. We have to look at the riders. When we look at certain, like, for example, with the guy from Bruges that we were linked with, there was multiple people that were saying we were tracking him. I was like, okay, we can say that this one's more reliable because there's multiple sources. We've had a lot of things from the fans and one thing from one person. Now, the truth is we don't know. But if it is recent, I think the club will be trying to quieten down that as much as humanly possible because they must be absolutely livid, especially after the COVID party of last time. I
do get what you're saying. From my point of view, we do know that papers do like to hold on to stories and say, right, we've got that. Let's wait until the best time to use it, And we know that happens. We do, and we've been there with the press. They like picking on Leicester.
Vultures. Oh, is it? Take one to my sharks, as Ranieri used to say.
Yeah. I mean, look at La Manga and all that. Couple of times that happened, but to me, I mean, I used to be in sales, and I can remember quite often. It would be maybe, let's say, be a Wednesday, so it wouldn't even be weekend. It'd be a Wednesday. We'd have a really bad day. We'd have some stuff to sell, and we couldn't sell it, and we had to put fillers in to the newspaper and what have you. And we said, let's go and have a drink. Let's just go and have a drink and get it over. Isn't that just what if it was that, maybe that's just what the players were doing? So for God's sake, let me just get out of this and relax. Are they not allowed to do that, do you think?
I think they should, but they should be savvy enough to know And even the wives of the, I think that was Danny Ward's wife. Don't put it on the internet. Like, even if that was, just keep it a quiet one. Have a couple of drinks with your friends. Don't make too much noise. Just sit there, have a couple of drinks, and then that's what you need to do. Don't go crazy and wild with it. Again, it doesn't look like they are, but you should. If you are married to a footballer, you know what the media is like. Why are you going out there and putting? As soon as somebody posted something on social media on an Instagram story that's deleted in 24 hours, that gets clipped, and then it's all over every social media. So. Players, and again, if you're associated with a player, I'm not saying it's your fault, but you need to be aware of the consequence. You can't behave in a certain way because it will come back and it will bite your pocket and things like that as well. So it's a bit of, again, you can just say from the Danny Ward's wife, it's not a good look from her perspective as well. It's a really, because again, if you want to record it, keep it, and then just don't put it online. It's a silly movie.
Don't marry a football player or a prime minister. Then you'll be all right in whatever you do. JJ says he would take Nuno. It's a Keithy. See, you're saying here.
It's not happening.
Ten Hag. Would he seriously come to us? And this is the thing with the old Ancelotti rumours. And let's be honest. I mean, we have had an absolutely last 5-6 years. We have had total success at this club compared to where we've been in the past. It's been an amazing 5 or 6 years.
Even go back to 2014 when we won remember the years that I was, again, just not to rant a little bit, but I remember watching the season. I think it was the first season of Pearson. We were 13th of the championship. I was like, thank God we weren't dragged into a relegation scrap. And it was a nice feeling to not be dragged in there when the year after we're back in there. So I've witnessed the highs of it as well, the lows of going down to the King Power and having a whole row to yourself. You're like, whatever, go with your friends if we want. But seeing that at the same time to go, right, I don't think we're going to go get a Ten Hag. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the club might have learnt their mistake and go, right, we can't buy him out of his contract. We've spent too much money on him. We're going to reset and reload. We're not going to go for a big name manager again. We'll go for somebody that we've not heard of. And I think that's how they're going to do it, because that's the model that has worked in terms of the players. And that's what's going to work now. We won't get a Premier League proven player because Premier League manager, because the Premier League proven managers haven't worked so far as well.
Yes. And I think as well, you've got to look at Ten Hag and you're saying, well, hang on, Man United are being linked with him. Leicester are being linked with him. And say, where's he going to go? And we're not going to be at the top of his list. We've got to take off these blue tinted spectacles and go, we are Leicester. Brendan, it was different because Brendan wasn't a Ten Hag, he wasn't a Mourinho, he's not a Pep Guardiola, and he had to reprove himself in the last season. He was being linked with Barcelona, Man United, etc. Now you don't hear any links at all. So we've got to accept. We are still Leicester. Sean Dyche, no. A couple of years ago, maybe, but not for me now.
We don't have the players for it as well.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine James Maddison being coached by Sean Dyche? You just can't see it, can you?
No. No. 2
feet long.
I don't want that talk about something else. Don't leave that thought in my head. JJ says Lampard, but he's just gone to Everton, so he's not going to quit Everton now. JJ says here, yes, Chris, but they represent the club and get paid thousands of pounds a week, while the normal man has to go into work and get the shit taken out of them. It's a job. I mean, it's a job. I mean, JJ, if I could play football when I was younger, I would be playing. I'd want to be playing. I'd want to be earning 100 grand a week, and I'd want to go out and buy all the flash cars and what have you. It's just the fact that we have Steve Lynex on here often, and Julian Watts, and you guys have had ex-players on, and they don't actually begrudge the current crop earning what they're earning, because they can do. You only say, "Oh, you're offering me 100 grand a week." I tell you what, I'll take 60.
I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down Asda and work there.
Yes. It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
Again, Keith says, we don't know if we don't try. Fair point, I suppose. Scott, would you take Mark Overmars in with the media stuff he's dealing with?
He's got sacked, I think, from Ajax But I think even he kind of, again, I'm going to be honest, I don't really follow much European football because I never thought that we'd play European football against Leicester City. So I don't really know what's happening in terms of Europe. I just tend to concentrate on Championship in the Premier League, whatever Leicester's in, and follow them. But I think what's happening is that the way that we're working, again, kind of down to this comment, it's not like we don't want to support Brendan. When things were going bad for us in November, I think the majority of the fan base was still behind Brendan. You've seen slowly one person go, and I was still with Brendan, I think, until January. What was annoying was the "we've overachieved" comment. For me, that really ticked us off when he said it the second time. I know that ticks a lot of Leicester fans off because they go, no, we haven't overachieved. We've got a good squad and a good place, and we know the things we can do. I'm all for supporting Brendan, but Brendan needs to show me something to support. And that's all it is. I was supporting Pearson when we were. It's not just about we're losing. It's about if we went out 2-1 and we put up a good fight, I don't think either of us would really complain. It's like, fair enough. And it's annoying because it should have been a more closer game, but whatever. So that's what I think as well. It's not just as easy as going, oh well, you're against the manager. Well, yes, but it's game after game, and when you're watching them game after game, you notice that certain things aren't working, and when they're not working, you have to acknowledge that this trend is continuing. Brendan Rodgers' tactics has not been right for about a month at a minimum. Yes, we've had a couple of blips, and as you were saying, Chris, you come back to the same points of Challenger had a good game, bench for the next game. Dewsbury Hall again had a really good game, bench for the next game. They keep changing and swapping and changing, and part of it has been injuries, but partly because you look at the bench going, well, why did Daka not start after he scored in the last game? Well, why does Ndidi walk back into the squad? Why does Sionchu get that position? Because he's not really deserved it when you could play Ndidi and Namati, a centre back that we've seen has worked, or play the same back four that you did, same team that you play against Liverpool, because they were all available.
Or the youngsters who did a good job against Watford, but. I think, some players maybe are getting to the fact. I mean, I'm never for the fact that you bring a player back just because he is Maddison or just because he is Tielemans. They've got to earn that place back. And if KDH is in there and he is performing, he stays in there until he has a bad game. And I think, that makes the squad hungry. And I wonder whether maybe the squad is getting a little bit sort of like, I'll be back in the squad. It doesn't matter. But just to go back to the point you made, quick, about the overachieving. I mean, in fairness, this is something I did say. You know what I mean? It's going to take a lot. And then this Big Six thing it's a Sky thing. I don't think the fans even sort of believe it these days. And Arsenal are still thought of as a Big Six club. But
Tottenham, North London in general.
Tottenham, exactly. But when we won the Premier League, as much as we deserved to win it because we won more games that season and the table doesn't lie, there was things going on at other clubs that helped us with that. Man City sacked them or announced that the manager was leaving before the end of the season, so the players sort of said, well, gave up. You had Man United had Van Gaal, and we know how bad they were at that point. And I think the last two seasons we haven't really had any competition for that fourth or fifth place. It's been like Leicester. You had no West Ham the first season. You had no Spurs. You had no Arsenal. Now, in fairness, Spurs and Arsenal are kind of slowly coming back more this season. West Ham having another good season. So there's more. That was a quick wallpaper change. So these clubs.
My laptop is. For some reason it's decided to kick me off. I'm not sure why it's done that.
We can still hear you.
I'm here, but it just froze and then the wallpaper went. So I'm here in my green screen. So welcome to the behind the scenes of Beyond the 90 at the moment.
Green is your colour, sir. Green is your colour.
It's blue.
But I just think there is more competition coming back this season. Brighton have got coming through, and maybe they've dropped off a little bit. But I say you've got the West Hams, you've got the Arsenal and Tottenhams. They're coming back. So I kind of get where they were coming from with the overachieving, but we're football fans.
It wasn't like Leicester fans were asking the next season to go and win it again. Do you see what I mean? That would be overachieving. It would be Leicester fans. Oh, let's just be competitive, and I think that's a lot of The manager, that manager was great. I mean, he played some great football, and I was thinking to that right wing, I was like, oh, we could do with him. Like there was a couple of players I was thinking, oh, they could have a couple of players, and I was like, this is Forest. We shouldn't be saying this, but at the same time, it's the Championship team, so. Yes, there's exactly as Keith put. It's not about overachieving, and also these overachieving things only come into play once certain things die down. I mean, were we expecting to get in the top 4? I think yes, but I don't think would we say at that point that we were overachieving. I mean, we were one of the top 4 teams in the division, and we dropped out the last game of the season twice in a row. But we were consistently one of the top 4 teams. I'm not saying that we're going to go and win the Premier League. I don't think a lot of the teams saying that, but we can be competitive, and if we can walk out, at least I can go. I gave it. At least we can say the team gave it their all. I'm happy. The manager tried his tactics, and I'm happy. I don't think anybody can really say that at the moment, especially after the Nottingham Forest performance.
I think, and for me as well, and you know, when we host these podcasts, we don't always say, guys, what we believe. Not always our thoughts. We generally say things to get people to comment and what have you. So you have to take that into account. But for me, on a personal note, we should at least be treading water. You know, we've reached that position we were. I would accept, like I can't get away from this performances, you know, and we could end the season as winners of the conference and sitting in maybe 7th or 8th place, and that would be an amazing season. But I don't know, it's going worse. It's like when we won the Premier League. You know, we won the Premier League. We knew we probably weren't going to win it again, but to be sat 17th, 18th at one point, that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, exactly. And to do that and to defend the way we did it, it's just not working. And again, we should be. I mean, I don't think the fans are asking too much to qualify for the Europa League group stage, considering the performances that weren't good enough at times. I mean, we lost against Legia Warsaw. We lost away. We lost to Napoli, who played their under 23s. We drew at home to, again, it was okay before. It was a good performance from us, but we couldn't finish, and it was really frustrating. So you're looking at it that way, you're going, okay, let's see if we can do better than that. We know we can do better than that. Yes, we had we had a bad group at the moment. However, I got distracted by the comment. But yes,
she always pops up at the bad time.
No worries. But yes, in terms of that, that's the kind of thing I was talking about, and I don't think it's asking too much to get past the 4th round of the FA Cup. Isn't that hard considering we won it? I don't think that's asking for too much. I don't think asking for Europa League football is really too much considering the squad we've got. So things like that, it's kind of a people. Expectations are too high. Well, the expectations I don't think is too much.
Yes. Yeah, and I've got to be honest with you, Terry. I wouldn't take Rooney because, again, he hasn't done enough yet. You can't judge a manager on just one season. Like that's what I was saying about the Brighton manager, Potter. You know, when he's done prove something, then we'll say he's a good manager, but he's not a great manager yet. I'm going to end it there because we've both got shows to get ready and go to. I appreciate you coming on so much, Neil, even if you were distracted by my daughter, but she does apologise. You're one of my 2 favourite daughters, Heather. Let's just leave it to that. It is a crossroads. The BBC sort of introduced the iPlay a bit, saying we were at a crossroads. We possibly are. The thing I've got to say is, and I know it's easy to say, but in top we trust. You know, look how close Vichai was to come to sacking Nigel Pearson. It was out there. It was on the news, and it all went on that night. And then by the next morning, he'd been reinstated. And you know that was down to top saying, "Hang on, is this the right decision?" So I don't think he's going to make a bad decision. To be honest with you, so. No.
We're in it for the long run. You don't support Leicester because you support them for the trophies and things. You're in it for the long run if you support them. That's why we try and shout out some of the international fans, because that's a lot more commitment. Some of the hours that they have to get up, I try and shout them a lot more on our show as well. People have to get up at 4 a.m. to watch that. Things like that. That's a lot of dead time and dedication. And so it's giving people that opportunity, and we're in it for the long run. I know it was, but it's, my God, is it painful once you go through it. But we've got a club that we trust. We've got an ownership that trusts. We know that we'll make the right decision. Hopefully, we'll both be sitting here, me and Chris, doing the same thing in next February, going, we had to go through the dying pain. We have to go through the growing pains, just like we did with Puel, and we're in a better place now. And I think that's it. So we will have to see. But other than that,
if you support Leicester, you should know what we're like. We never do things the easy way. With one thing we are champions, that is shooting ourselves in the foot. But we're not in a Newcastle position. We're not in an Everton position at the moment. Let's see where we are at the end of the season and take stock from then. Knee-jerk reactions are never good. Look at Watford. You know what I mean? But Neil, a quick shout out again. How can people find you?
Yep, so you go to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Oh, thank you for putting me full screen. Neil at Beyond the 90 or Beyond the 90 LCFC. There's myself. We do Leicester City women's content as well. We've got fans from, again, Canada. There's James and Ant that do stuff as well. So more than happy to come over and check us out. We've not had Chris, we've not had you on, but we've come on a few times. We're more than welcome to come on as well. But I think we're both doing podcasts at the same time. I think
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not that there's anything between us. I think we're both just busy doing our own things.
This is it. You know, if you do a podcast, you tend to do it at the same time, because that's the best time to do it. And I would have had Anton, but I hadn't got a high chair free for him, so I couldn't bring him on. You were waiting for one of those, weren't you? You were waiting.
I never say anything. You started this, and you're continuing this. Do not bring me into this. I have clipped this and sent it to Ant because I think it's funny, but that's not the point.
you got to stick up for him. But the links are in the channel below. Do go and give Beyond a like and a follow. And thanks so much for coming on, mate. I have to wear a cap because I've got less hair than I had when I started supporting Leicester. So hopefully still have a little bit by the end of the season. We'll probably get back together then.
Like my green screen does.
Yes. But all the best, mate. I'll probably feature tomorrow on Doug's channel. So I'll see you then.
No problem. All right, see you later. Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks to Neil for coming on. Great guy. Do make sure you go and check his channel out. He's really does do good content, and it's worth following. Yes, I'm going to be on a Statman show in 45 minutes. I might even be nipping on to Turf Show to see if Burnley or Manchester United are losing. We will see. But I'll see you tomorrow at 7 here. When Doug's doing the first of probably about 5 shows tomorrow. It's just a little case of Man United. Of Liverpool. Man United, we're wishful thinking. Let's be honest, we might be able to beat Man United at the moment. But come on, it would be Leicester. And I'll leave you with this thought. We've just lost to Forest. We will go and beat Liverpool. It happens. That's what Leicester do. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. I'll see you tomorrow at 7.
Leicester Till I Die podcasts on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, Google, Anchor, and all podcast platforms.
The Leicester Till I Die shop is now open.
For all your Leicester Till I Die merchandise,
Visit the Leicester Till I Die shop at our website. Thanks for watching Leicester Till I Die. This is Chris saying goodbye and see you next time.
That's all, folks.
It's in foul.